It began as a quiet decision, almost unnoticed, before rapidly unfolding into a moment that reverberated through the centers of political influence. What appeared on official records as a simple resignation felt, on the ground, like a fundamental shift beneath South Africa's political terrain. Nolibabelo Msinga, widely recognized as a youthful, ambitious figure and an emerging voice in a growing political force, has formally stepped away from the MK party. This is not an ordinary departure. It reflects changing loyalties, mounting dissatisfaction, and the start of a much larger political realignment, one centered on her renewed commitment to the ANYA movement, a platform she believes better captures her vision for the country's future. In a statement that surprised many with its clarity and decisiveness, Msinga explained that her resignation was driven by a desire to dedicate her energy to building and expanding the ANYA movement. There was no ambiguity in her words and no attempt to soften the message. She chose to leave behind the party where she had built her profile, mobilized supporters, and emerged as one of its most visible young leaders. To grasp the importance of this moment, it is necessary to look at the broader political environment. South Africa's political landscape is undergoing rapid change. New political formations are taking shape, established parties are experiencing internal fractures, and voters are increasingly searching for alternatives. Young people in particular, weary of recycled promises and recurring controversies, are demanding leadership that feels sincere, energetic, and willing to confront entrenched systems of power. Within the MK party, Msinga had come to represent that very energy. She worked closely with youth structures, encouraged civic participation, and drew attention to pressing issues affecting millions, including unemployment, limited economic opportunity, social justice concerns, and the growing call for accountability in leadership. Over time, however, the idealism that fueled her rise encountered the realities of party politics. For many emerging leaders, remaining within traditional political organizations often means navigating bureaucracy, internal divisions, and slow decision-making processes. It requires compromise, negotiation, and at times, setting aside bold ideas for the sake of internal unity. Not all leaders are prepared to accept those constraints. Msinga made it clear that her decision was carefully considered rather than impulsive. It represented a strategic redirection toward a movement she believes allows for real and meaningful change. The ANYA movement, still relatively new in the national political space, has drawn the attention of activists, disenchanted young citizens, and those critical of established political structures. Its agenda emphasizes deep structural reform, economic liberation, and a clear break from conventional political practices. Msinga's shift reflects a belief that her impact can be greater outside the limits of her former party, guided by a vision aimed at challenging the foundations of South Africa's political system. Her resignation carries implications beyond personal ambition. It highlights a shift in grassroots political energy and prompts serious questions about the future of the MK party itself. If a prominent young leader is willing to leave, it raises concerns about the party's unity, strategic direction, and capacity to retain emerging talent. More broadly, it invites reflection on whether movements like ANYA are becoming the primary vehicles for change in a society where traditional politics no longer resonate with large segments of the population. Across communities and online platforms, frustration remains high as unemployment persists, service delivery struggles continue, and public trust in leadership declines. In this environment, movements grounded in clear principles and community engagement are gaining momentum. For Msinga, this moment represents a defining test of leadership. Her resignation was delivered calmly and with conviction rather than anger. She acknowledged the value of her experience within the MK party and expressed respect for her former colleagues, while making it clear that her allegiance now lies with a movement that aligns more closely with her values. That stance reflects a broader generational mindset, one that refuses to be confined by tradition and recognizes that meaningful change often requires new platforms, fresh ideas, and the courage to step beyond familiar territory. Public reaction has been swift. Supporters have praised her decision as bold and principled, describing it as an example of leadership rooted in conviction rather than political convenience. Critics of the MK party see her exit as a warning sign, pointing to deeper organizational challenges that may prompt further departures. At the same time, her move places renewed attention on the ANYA movement itself, raising questions about its ability to convert ideals into measurable political success, sustain leadership, and build long-term support beyond initial enthusiasm. What is clear is that this moment marks a significant turning point. Not only for Nalubabelo Msinga, but for the political paths she is leaving behind and those she is choosing to pursue. Change in politics rarely arrives quietly. It brings disruption, debate, and uncertainty. Msinga's decision stands as a statement that South Africa's future leadership must be more daring, more responsive, and more attentive to voices that have long been sidelined. As she embarks on this new chapter, attention will remain fixed on whether her vision for the ANYA movement can move beyond promise and translate into real influence, shaping not just political discussions, but the choices and hopes of citizens across the country.